Today's video is consisting of every Premier League team's season reviewed in under 30 seconds. Did they overachieve, underachieve? What do they need to do next season to improve? Let's do it. So Arsenal then ended up finishing 5th, which, after going back-to-back 8th place finishes under Arteta, is a sign of improvement. They are the youngest squad in the Premier League this season, and they did quite well after a rocky start. However, they will be disappointed in the ending of their season, as they should have had top 4 wrapped up, but ended up bottling it to Spurs. 6 out of 10 for Arteta's men. Aston Villa, with Steven Gerrard coming in at the helm now, ended up in 14th place in the league. Not as good as they would have liked, especially considering the signings that they made in the summer after selling Jack Grealish. But now they've signed Diego Carlos, they've signed Coutinho on permanent. They'll be looking to improve next season, but 14th for their aspirations, not good enough. 4 out of 10. Next up is Brentford, who came up from the Championship last season through the playoffs, and they actually did really well this season. They impressed a lot. They started off with a great win over Arsenal on the opening day, back in the Premier League for the first time in so many years, and they ended up finishing 11 points above the drop, which for a team that's just come up, that is exceptional. Did really, really well. Eriksen was a great signing in January as well. Let's give him an 8 out of 10. Brighton up next, and Graham Potter is getting so much out of these players. It is fantastic. Cucurella had a fantastic season, and the system that they're using, very, very impressive. They finished in the top half, which is huge for Brighton, so fair play to them. If they keep hold of Potter and they keep hold of the players, they're going to do well again next season. They just need that clinicalness up front, though, just to get them a little bit higher. So I'm going to give them 8 out of 10. Next up is Burnley, who have finally been relegated from the Premier League after surviving year on year for a little while now. They did sack Sean Dyche just before the end of the season, which there must have been something going on in the background because it was a bizarre time for him to go. But Burnley just not good enough this season. They're going to lose some players, so it might be hard for them to come back up. I mean, their aim was to stay up. They failed that aim. 3 out of 10. Next we have Chelsea, who did end up finishing 3rd this season. However, it was a little bit of a dull one for them. They were out of the title race, which they were hoping to be in relatively early, and it was basically just trundling along all season in 3rd place, knowing that that's basically where they were going to end up. They actually nearly ended up dropping below 3rd, which would have been awful, but considering they spent 100 mil on Lukaku, just not a great season, considering they just won the UCL this season before. So, 5 out of 10. Next up, we have Patrick Vieira's Crystal Palace, who ended up finishing 12th. And he's had a difficult job taking over and trying to instill a new style of play. He's got some really, really exciting players, though, although they did have some injuries throughout this season. So, Palace were pretty entertaining to watch, but just a bit too inconsistent against the teams in and around them in the table. That's what they need to improve for next season. I'll give Palace a 6 out of 10. Well done, Vieira. Everton. Aiming for European places, nearly relegated. Don't really need to say much more. 2 out of 10. Leeds United. Again, another team that would have been hoping to push higher and higher up the table after their decent finish with Bielsa last season. Also, only just about survived relegation. Yes, they did have massive injury problems, to be fair to them, and so that did hinder them, but a poor season from them. Maybe now with Jesse Marsch, they'll be looking to finish higher in the table next season, but pretty poor. 4 out of 10. Next up, my own team, Leicester. Now, I will be doing a full Leicester review of our season in a separate video, so I'm not going to go into depth in this one. We should have done better in the league this season. We did have an injury problem again for the 2nd year in a row, but finishing 8th after everything that went on is actually not that bad, but it's not what we were hoping for. We were hoping to finish in European places, and that was done and dusted really early in the season. So 4 out of 10, I think, for Leicester. Then we have Liverpool, who managed to finish 2nd in the league. Now, reminder, this is a Premier League season review, not overall, where you would probably rate them higher because they played every single game possible. However, They do have a Premier League winning squad, and they did not win the league. So, falling a little bit short there, they will be disappointed, especially some of the results that they failed to get that would have pushed them over that finishing line. We even beat them in a terrible season. So, just not quite what Liverpool would be looking for, but they still got 90 plus points, which is insane and would normally win you the Prem if Man City weren't as incredible as they are. So, I'll still be nice. 8 out of 10 for Liverpool. Man City now, obviously, champions. However, not quite as clear-cut champions as they've had in previous years. And they also didn't do that well on other fronts. They should have done better. It's the first time they haven't won the Carabao Cup in years. So their Prem season was good, but not as good as it could have been. But they won the league. So that is the main target. But I think they probably would have aimed for a little bit higher. So 9 out of 10, I think, is fair for City. Man United. Sancho, Varane, Ronaldo. From 2nd to 6th. Awful. Absolutely dreadful season. It was just a mess from start to finish. Maguire having one of the worst seasons a Premier League centre-back has had for a Big Six team ever. Just dreadful. There isn't really much more to say other than what a disappointment and what a failure of a season for them. They're going to be disappointed that they're in Europa League, but that's what they deserve. 3 out of 10. Newcastle up next, and they're an interesting one because their season is basically split into 2. They ended up 14 points above the drop, which is insane. However, they were dreadful. Absolutely dreadful under Steve Bruce. And then Eddie Howe has come in. They've had some investment, obviously, from the new owners. And he has had them in Champions League places, form, since he's come in. Which is just incredible. And he deserves massive praise for that. So, it's kind of hard to judge. But overall, I guess we'll go for a 6. Next season is going to be very interesting for Newcastle, though. Norwich. Bottom of the league. Comfortably just relegated. It wasn't even close. They were gone ages ago. Not too surprising, so it can't really be a 1 out of 10. It's kind of what everybody expects. 3. Southampton ended 15th without a win in their last 5 games. They actually picked up 4 losses, which is really, really bad. James Ward-Prowse had an okay season, has still got into the England squad. Kyle Walker-Peters as well, decent. Livramento was great before his injury, but Hasenhüttl just hasn't quite got it clicking for them this year, and they'll probably be disappointed in their finish, so I can give them a 4 out of 10. Then we have Spurs. Now, Spurs is an interesting one because under Nuno at the start of the season, he got Premier League Manager of the Month and then was dreadful. Ended up getting sacked. They were not doing well. Brought in Conte, and he has just done wonders. He's been phenomenal, and it's now confirmed that he is staying for another year. They've just signed Perisic as of the time of recording. It's going to be very exciting for Spurs next season, and they just about pipped Arsenal to that Champions League spot, which is incredible for them. Kulusevski was an incredible signing as well in January. They've done very, very well. Conte, masterclass basically for most of the season. I'm going to give Spurs an 8 out of 10. Watford, very similar to Norwich, really. Dreadful. Absolutely dreadful season. Manager changes making no difference and not really making any sense. The first manager that started the season did the best for them, yet they got rid of him. Bizarre. 3 out of 10. Penultimate team, West Ham United, ended up finishing 7th, so they will be going into the Conference League. Unfortunate for them, because they started off the season so well. They were top 4. They were pushing really, really well for those Champions League spots. And even then, after that, Europa League looked nailed on. But Antonio's goals dried up. They had an injury to Bowen, and it just sort of went downhill. So if you'd have given them 7th at the start of the season, they might have been happy with that. But a bit like Arsenal, circumstances change, opinions change, as do expectations. So it's ended up being a little bit of a failure to drop down. I'll give them a 6 out of 10. And then it's a very similar story for our last team, which is Wolves this season. They were also up there in the European places and then ended up finishing 10th. Like, they just fell away, and it was an interesting season for them. I don't know how they're going to build on this in the summer. They're going to have to get a couple of signings in to really try and figure out what the problems are and how to sort them out, because just a little bit disappointing. Even when they were doing well, they weren't scoring that many. It was just their defence that was keeping them up in the table. So I'll give Wolves a 5. So those are my thoughts on all the Premier League teams' seasons. Let me know yours in the comments down below. I'm so excited for the new season. Bring it on. And obviously we'll be having a load of content coming for you over the summer. I'm going to try and get daily videos up, but at the very least, every other day. So hopefully you enjoy it. If you do, thumb it up, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.